Commander Vex-Kolar adjusted his mandibles in what his species considered a grin of satisfaction. The human homeworld hung before their battle fleet like a ripe fruit waiting to be plucked. How pathetically easy this would be. Status report. Sub-Commander Zith. He clicked, his voice carrying the authority of 17 successful planetary conquests. All vessels in position, sir. The humans appear, completely unaware of our presence. Zith's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion among the Kryllian species. Their defensive satellites are primitive at best. Their orbital stations look like they were built by larvae. Vex-Kolar's laugh rumbled through his thorax. Of course they're unaware. These creatures have barely managed to crawl out of their gravity well. They probably think we're another one of their little metal toys floating in space. The bridge crew shared what passed for amusement among their kind. The Kryllian Empire had steamrolled through 47 star systems in the past cycle alone. What were these soft, pink bipeds going to do? Throw rocks, sir? Communications officer next chimed in, her voice tinged with what could only be described as barely contained laughter. We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Oh, how delightful. The insects want to talk. Vex-Kolar settled back into his command chair, a biomechanical throne that pulsed with his heartbeat. Put it through. Let's hear what these primitives have to say before we glass their little mud ball. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a human male wearing what appeared to be some kind of formal attire. His hair was graying at the temples, and his eyes held a calmness that struck Vex-Kolar as oddly unsettling for someone facing certain death. Greetings, the human said, his voice steady and unremarkable. I am President Marcus Webb of the United Earth Federation. We've detected your fleet approaching our system. Vex-Kolar leaned forward, his amusement growing. How very observant of you, President Marcus Webb. He made sure to pronounce the name with exaggerated care, as if speaking to a child. I am Commander Vex-Kolar of the Kryllian Empire. We've come to add your little planet to our collection. Webb nodded slowly, as if this was the most natural conversation in the universe. I see. And I assume you expect us to surrender without resistance? Oh, you can resist if you'd like. Vex-Kolar's mandibles clicked rapidly now, his version of hysterical laughter. It might provide some entertainment for my crew. We've been traveling for quite some time, and they could use a good show. The human's expression didn't change. Not even a flicker of fear or desperation. Now disappointingly boring. Commander, Webb said, folding his hands in front of him. Before you begin your attack, I feel obligated to ask you one question. By all means. I do so enjoy the last words of conquered species. They're often quite amusing. Webb's eyes seemed to focus directly on Vex-Kolar through the screen. Are you absolutely certain you want to start a war with humanity? The bridge fell silent for a moment before erupting in what could generously be called laughter. Zith was making wheezing sounds through his breathing slits. X had doubled over her console. Even the usually stoic weapons officer was vibrating with mirth. Oh, that's rich. Vex-Kolar wiped fluid from his primary eye. Are we certain we want to start a war? My dear little human. The war is already over. You just haven't realized it yet. Webb waited patiently for the laughter to subside. I'll take that as a yes then, indeed. Now, shall we get on with this? My weapons officer is simply dying to test our new plasma disruptors on your pathetic orbital installations. Very well, Webb said, and something in his tone made Vex-Kolar's laughter catch in his throat. You've made your choice. I hope you're prepared for the consequences. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in an oddly uncomfortable silence. Well, Zith said after a moment, that was anticlimactic, wasn't it just? Vex-Kolar shook off the strange feeling that had settled over him. Probably just pre-battle nerves. Weapons Officer Grix, you may begin the bombardment. Start with their moon base. Let's see how brave they are when we start destroying their toys. Yes, sir. Grix's targeting systems hummed to life, locking onto the lunar installation now, charging plasma disruptors to full power. The massive energy buildup could be felt throughout the ship as the weapons prepared to fire. Vex-Kolar settled back to enjoy the show. This would be over in minutes. Firing in 3, 2, 1, fire. The brilliant lance of superheated plasma erupted from the flagship's main cannon, racing toward the human moon base with enough energy to vaporize a small asteroid. It struck the installation dead center, and absolutely nothing happened. Grix stared at his instruments in complete bewilderment. "Sir, the energy readings are..." "That's impossible." "What's impossible?" Vex-Kolar's voice had lost its amused edge. The plasma discharge simply dissipated, as if it hit some kind of absorption field. But the power requirements for something like that would be... Grix trailed off, his compound eyes wide with shock. "Try again," Vex-Kolar ordered, his mandibles no longer clicking with amusement. "Yes, sir." Full power. Direct hit on their orbital shipyard. Again the plasma lance struck true. Again it simply vanished without leaving so much as a scorch mark. "Sir." Nex's voice was considerably less confident than before. "We're receiving another transmission from the planet." Webb appeared on screen again, and this time there was definitely something different about his expression. Was that amusement? "Commander Vex-Kolar," Webb began, and his tone was almost conversational. "I tried to warn you. You really should have listened." "What kind of defensive technology are you using?" Vex-Kolar demanded. "Our intelligence reports indicated you barely had fusion power." "Oh, we do have fusion power," Webb said with what was unmistakably a smile now. "Among other things. You see, Commander, you made a rather critical error in your assessment of humanity." "And what error would that be?" "You assumed we were alone." Before Vex-Kolar could process what that meant, his tactical officer was shouting warnings. "Sir." Multiple contacts appearing on sensors. They're everywhere." The main screen split to show the tactical display, and Vex-Kolar felt his ichor run cold. Ships were appearing all around them. Not just a few ships. Hundreds of them, thousands of them. The sensor readings showed technology signatures unlike anything in the Kryllian databases. "How is this possible?" Zith whispered. Webb's image remained on half the screen, his smile growing wider. "Did you really think that in a galaxy containing billions of stars, humans would be the only intelligent species to have survived and thrived? The only ones to have developed beyond your expectations?" "Multiple species signatures detected," the tactical officer reported, his voice cracking. "Energy readings are, sir. Some of these ships are reading as planet killer class weapons." Webb chuckled, and the sound sent vibrations through Vex-Kolar's exoskeleton. "Commander, allow me to introduce you to the Galactic Defense Alliance. We've been expecting you." The tactical display updated as more and more ships materialized from what must have been the most sophisticated cloaking technology Vex-Kolar had ever encountered. The Kryllian fleet, which had seemed so imposing just moments before, was now outnumbered at least 50 to 1. "The vegan collective sends their regards," Webb continued conversationally. "They're still a bit upset about what you did to the Proxima settlements. The Centauri Federation is here too. They have some rather strong opinions about your recent activities in their region of space." "This is impossible," Vex-Kolar breathed. "Our scouts surveyed this entire sector. There were no advanced civilizations. No unified alliances. Your scouts saw exactly what we wanted them to see," Webb replied. "Did you never wonder why every species you've encountered has been conveniently isolated? Why you've never run into organized resistance?" The truth was beginning to dawn on Vex-Kolar, and it was more terrifying than any nightmare his species had ever conceived. "You've been hurting us," he whispered. "Now you're getting it." Webb clapped his hands together. "Every expansion, every conquest, every move your empire has made has been carefully guided. We've been watching, learning, waiting for the right moment." "But why?" Zith asked, his voice barely a whisper. Webb's expression turned serious. "Because we needed to know exactly what kind of species we were dealing with. We needed to see if the Kryllian Empire was capable of growth, of change, of becoming something more than a plague of locusts consuming everything in its path." "And?" Vex-Kolar asked, though he already knew the answer. "You failed the test, Commander. Spectacularly." The first salvo from the Alliance fleet lit up space like a newborn star. Vex-Kolar watched in horror as 3 of his dreadnoughts simply ceased to exist, vaporized by weapons technology that made his plasma disruptors look like children's toys. "Shields up. All ships, evasive maneuvers," he shouted. But it was far too late. The Kryllian fleet was being systematically dismantled by an enemy they couldn't even effectively target. Their weapons seemed to pass harmlessly through the Alliance ships, while return fire carved through Kryllian hulls like they were made of paper. "Sir," Grix called out desperately. "Our weapons are having no effect. It's like they're not even there." "A shift technology," Webb explained helpfully from the screen. "We learned it from the Andromedans. Lovely people. They're actually here too, though I doubt you can see them. They exist in about 7 dimensions simultaneously." Another wave of fire consumed half of Vex-Kolar's remaining fleet. The bridge shook as near misses tested their shields to the breaking point. "We surrender." Vex-Kolar shouted. "We yield. Call off your attack." "Oh, I'm afraid it's far too late for that," Webb said, his conversational tone never wavering. "You see, Commander, you asked if we were certain we wanted to start a war with humanity, but you misunderstood the question entirely." "What do you mean?" "Gah." Webb leaned forward slightly, and for the first time, Vex-Kolar saw something truly frightening in the human's eyes. "We didn't start a war with humanity, Commander. Humanity is just one member of the Alliance. Kat-escent. You started a war with half the galaxy." The communications array exploded in a shower of sparks as another Alliance weapon found its mark. Through the static and chaos, Vex-Kolar could still hear Webb's voice. "You wanted war, Commander. You've spent centuries bringing death and destruction to peaceful worlds. You've turned entire star systems into graveyards. You've enslaved species, destroyed cultures, wiped out billions of innocent lives." The main screen flickered back to life just long enough for Vex-Kolar to see Webb's final message. "So now, Commander Vex-Kolar of the Kryllian Empire, you get exactly what you wanted. War. Total, absolute, uncompromising war, yes, and since you seem to enjoy watching worlds burn." The last thing Vex-Kolar saw before his flagship's reactor core was breached was Webb's cold smile. "Now you get to watch yours." The emergency beacon from the destroyed flagship reached Kryllian High Command exactly 47 hours after the fleet's annihilation. Supreme Admiral Thex-Moran received the fragmentary transmission while reviewing conquest reports from the Outer Rim territories. What she saw made her secondary stomach clench with dread. "Play it again," she ordered her aide, Sub-Admiral Kex-Vorth. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the final moments of Vex-Kolar's transmission. Static filled most of the recording, but the words were clear enough. "High Command, trap, humans not alone. Alliance, half the galaxy. Request immediate reinforce." The transmission cut to white noise. "How many ships did we lose?" Thex-Moran asked, though she dreaded the answer. "The entire 7th Battle Fleet, Supreme Admiral. 237 vessels. Complete destruction. No survivors detected." Thex-Moran's forearms twitched involuntarily. The 7th Fleet had been one of their most powerful forces. "And you're certain it was the human homeworld they attacked?" "Confirmed. Sol system, 3rd planet, target designation Earth." For the first time in her military career, Thex-Moran felt something she'd never experienced before: genuine fear. Not of death, not of defeat in battle, but of the unknown. The humans were supposed to be primitives, barely space-capable. How had they destroyed an entire Kryllian battle fleet? "Assemble the 1st, 3rd, and 5th Armadas," she commanded. "Full mobilization. Every available ship." Kex-Vorth's compound eyes widened. "Supreme Admiral, that's over 3,000 vessels. Surely the humans can't." "The humans destroyed 237 of our best ships without losing a single one of their own." Thex-Moran snapped. "I'm not taking any chances." "Yes, Supreme Admiral. But what about the Emperor's orders regarding the Outer Rim campaigns?" Thex-Moran considered this. Emperor Gorth-Hael would not be pleased to learn that 3 major armadas were being diverted from profitable conquest operations to deal with what he still considered a minor primitive world. "Send a priority message to the Imperial Palace. Inform His Magnificence that we've encountered unexpected resistance, request permission to proceed with overwhelming force, and if he refuses? Thex-Moran looked at the static-filled transmission one more time. Then we proceed anyway. I'd rather face the Emperor's displeasure than whatever destroyed Vex-Kolar's fleet. 3 cycles later, the largest armada in Kryllian history assembled at the edge of the Sol system. Nearly 4,000 ships, ranging from nimble scouts to massive siege platforms capable of cracking planetary crusts. The combined firepower could sterilize entire star systems. Thex-Moran stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Imperial Wrath, watching the tactical display with growing unease. The system looked empty. Too empty. Sensor sweep complete. Supreme Admiral, reported Fleet Navigator Dex Horth, were detecting minimal activity. A few orbital installations, some interplanetary traffic, nothing that suggests significant military presence. What about the Alliance ships? Vex-Kolar reported. No sign of them, ma'am. If they were here, they're gone now. Thex-Moran's mandibles clicked nervously. Could they have retreated? It's possible. Our intelligence indicates that several other systems in this region have been mysteriously abandoned recently. That perhaps word of our approach has spread. That should have been reassuring. But something felt wrong. If this alliance was powerful enough to destroy the 7th Fleet, why would they simply vanish when faced with a larger force? Supreme Admiral, Communications Officer Next Haller announced, we're receiving a transmission from the human planet. Put it through. Mess. The main screen activated, revealing the same human who had spoken to Vex-Kolar. President Webb looked exactly the same. Except for one disturbing detail, he was smiling. Supreme Admiral Thex-Moran, Webb said pleasantly. Welcome to Sol System. I trust you received our message regarding your previous fleet. Where are they? Thex-Moran demanded. What did you do with Commander Vex-Kolar and his ships? Oh, they're still here, Webb replied, his smile widening. Would you like to see them? Before Thex-Moran could respond, the tactical display updated with new contacts. Hundreds of them, scattered throughout the system. As the computer analyzed the signatures, a horrifying realization dawned. Those are our ships, Keksvorth whispered, but the readings, they're all dead hulks, no power, no life signs. We kept them as a monument, Webb explained conversationally. A reminder of what happens when someone decides to wage war against peaceful civilizations. You think you've won? Thex-Moran snarled. I have 4,000 ships. Whatever trick you used before won't work against this armada. Trick? Webb looked genuinely puzzled. Oh, you mean our defensive systems. That wasn't a trick, Admiral. That was just Tuesday. The humans' casual dismissal of their greatest military defeat sent rage coursing through Thex-Moran's system. All ships. Attack formation. Prepare to glass this miserable planet. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Webb said mildly. And why not? Dend, because you're not fighting just Earth anymore, Admiral. You're fighting everyone. The space around the Kryllian Armada suddenly filled with ships, not hundreds this time. Thousands, tens of thousands. The sensor displays couldn't even count them all before the numbers overflowed. What is this? Thex-Moran breathed. The full Galactic Defense Alliance. Webb announced proudly. Every major civilization in the local galactic arm. The Vegan Collective, the Centauri Federation, the Andromedan Consciousness, the Silicon Brotherhood, the Quantum Nomads, and about 47 species you've never heard of because you wiped them out before they could properly introduce themselves. Each name sent another chill through Thex-Moran's exoskeleton. These weren't just random aliens. These were the mythical advanced civilizations that Kryllian scouts had spent centuries searching for. Impossible. Our exploration teams never found any trace of such civilizations. Of course not, Webb chuckled. We made sure of that. Every time your scouts encountered one of our member species, we arranged for them to see exactly what we wanted them to see. Usually a primitive, defenseless culture ripe for conquest. You've been manipulating us for centuries? Manipulating is such an ugly word. We prefer management. You see, Admiral, The Alliance has been aware of the Kryllian Empire since you first left your home system. We've been watching your expansion, your methods, your complete disregard for sentient life. Kex was frantically working his console. Supreme Admiral, the sensor readings on these ships. The technology levels are off the charts. Some of them are registering as having the mass of small moons, but the energy signatures suggest they're mostly empty space. And these quantum resonance patterns, I don't even have instruments that can properly analyze them initially. Webb continued as if he were giving a casual lecture. There was some debate about how to handle your species. The vegans wanted to simply relocate your entire empire to a different galaxy. The Andromedans suggested temporal manipulation, essentially editing you out of history. The Silicon Brotherhood advocated for complete molecular disassembly. And what did you decide? Thex-Moran asked, though she was beginning to suspect she didn't want to know. We decided to give you a chance. A test, if you will. We arranged for you to encounter the Zephyrian Collective about 50 cycles ago. Peaceful traders, completely defenseless, but incredibly rich in resources. We wanted to see if your empire was capable of peaceful contact, of growth beyond simple predation. Thex-Moran remembered the Zephyrian campaign. It had been one of their most profitable conquests. Billions of resources, practically no resistance. The entire species had been enslaved or eliminated within a single cycle. You failed that test rather spectacularly, Webb observed, so we tried again with the Meloran Republic. Again, you chose genocide over diplomacy. We gave you 17 opportunities to prove that your species was capable of something more than destruction. And we failed them all, Thex-Moran said quietly. Every single one. Which brings us to today. Webb's expression grew serious. The Alliance has reached a unanimous decision regarding the Kryllian Empire. Surrender? Thex-Moran asked hopefully. Extinction. Death. The word hit the bridge like a physical blow. Several crew members made involuntary sounds of distress. You can't be serious, Kex protested. We have entire worlds full of civilians, billions of non-combatants. Webb's eyes hardened. Just like the Zephyrians had, and the Melorans. And the 45 other species you've wiped out over the past few centuries. Did you show mercy to their civilians? The silence on the bridge answered the question. Supreme Admiral. The weapons officer called out desperately, should we open fire? Thex-Moran looked at the tactical display. Her 4,000 ships were completely encircled by Alliance vessels that outgunned them by orders of magnitude. It would be a massacre. But what choice did they have? All ships, she began, then stopped. What was the point? They were already dead. The only question was whether they died fighting or died begging. All ships, fire at will. Take as many of them with us as you can. The Kryllian Armada opened fire with everything they had. Plasma disruptors, particle beams, antimatter torpedoes, quantum disruption devices. Enough firepower to level continents poured out toward the Alliance fleet. None of it had any effect whatsoever. The Alliance ships seemed to exist in a different phase of reality. Kryllian weapons passed through them like they were ghosts, while return fire carved through Kryllian hulls with surgical precision. Within minutes, half the Armada was gone. This is impossible. Thex-Moran screamed. Nothing can be completely invulnerable. You're right. Webb's voice came through the chaos. We're not invulnerable. We're just about 10,000 years more advanced than you are. The difference between your technology and ours is roughly equivalent to the difference between throwing rocks and antimatter weapons. Another wave of Alliance fire swept through the fleet. Messile, NDSC. Guanoyal. The Imperial wrath shuddered as its shields finally began to fail. Supreme Admiral. Kex shouted over the alarms. Emergency transmission from the homeworld. Put it through. Emperor Gorth Hall appeared on a secondary screen, his usually arrogant expression replaced by naked terror. Behind him, the Imperial Palace was clearly under attack. Thex-Moran. What have you done? The Alliance fleet appeared over Kryllos 30 minutes ago. They're everywhere. Every major world in the Empire is under siege simultaneously. Impossible, Thex-Moran breathed. They're here fighting us. Oh, these ships? Webb's voice cut through the transmission. This is just the local defense force. a tiny fraction of Alliance military capability. We have fleets like this stationed around every significant world in the galaxy. The transmission from the homeworld cut to static as the Emperor's palace was apparently vaporized. "It's over," Kexforth whispered. "Not quite," Webb said. "We're prepared to offer terms." "Terms?" Thex-Moran laughed bitterly. "What terms could you possibly offer? Total surrender? Survival? Air that got everyone's attention. We'll spare approximately 10 million of your people," Webb continued, "enough to maintain genetic diversity. They'll be relocated to a world in a distant galaxy, far from any other intelligent life. It's a chance to start over, to build something better than an empire based on conquest and slaughter. And the rest of us?" Webb's expression returned to that cold hardness. "The rest of you chose war over peace, genocide over diplomacy, destruction over creation. You made your choice long ago." The Imperial Wrath's bridge began to buckle as the ship's superstructure finally gave way. Thex-Moran felt the artificial gravity failing, saw sparks raining from ruptured conduits. "The survivors," she managed to gasp. "How will you choose them?" "We already have. Every Kryllian who ever spoke out against the Empire's expansion policies, everyone who tried to show mercy to conquered populations, everyone who demonstrated that your species is capable of something more than blind aggression. They're already being evacuated as we speak." As if to punctuate his words, another section of the ship exploded. The main screen flickered and died, leaving only Webb's voice. "You wanted war, Admiral. You built an entire civilization around the concept of endless war. You turned it into a religion, a way of life. The only thing your people knew how to do." The ship lurched as its main reactor began to fail. Through the failing life support systems, Thex-Moran could hear the death screams of her crew. "So we gave you exactly what you wanted. War. Total war. War against every peaceful civilization you've ever threatened. War against every species you've ever enslaved. War against everyone who ever looked up at the stars and wondered if there was something better out there than violence and conquest." The last thing Supreme Admiral Thex-Moran heard before the reactor breach vaporized the Imperial Wrath was President Webb's final words. "You got your war, Admiral, and you lost." Within 6 hours, the Kryllian Empire ceased to exist. 437 worlds that had been built on the bones of conquered civilizations were reduced to cosmic dust. The survivors, carefully selected by Alliance monitors, were transported to a distant world with technology barely more advanced than stone tools. They were given one final message from the Alliance: learn to build instead of destroy. Create instead of conquer. Grow instead of consume. This is your last chance. There will not be another. And in the depths of space, the Alliance fleets returned to their hidden stations, waiting and watching for the next species that might need to learn the difference between strength and wisdom. The galaxy was safe once more, for now.